Hello and welcome to another of our videos. Today we will be going over how to retrieve images from a SharePoint image column in attachments and how to use them later in a Plumsail document workflow. Before we start, make sure to sign up for a 30-day free trial. It will grant you access to all features and integrations so you can follow along this example. For now, let's see how that works. In this occasion, we're going to be using our inspection list. As we can see here, our team has already been submitting different reports where each item includes information about the inspection, some evidence photo that back up their comments, alongside with a handwritten signature that we're going to need to include in our final report. For these last two cases, we're going to be using different ways of storing images in SharePoint. But what is the difference here? Let's go over it. For the signature, we're going to use an image column. It only supports one image, one file, and displays a preview in the list like we can see here, making them ideal for case but also for employee photos or logos. For the evidence photos, we're going to be reusing the default attachment column, which is a bit more flexible. It supports multiple files and multiple formats. The Power Automate flow that we're going to build will handle both cases, so we can, like we see here in our example, include all images in our final document. Now let's see how we can make this work and how we can build this step by step. Let's start by creating a new automated cloud flow in Power Automate, and for the trigger, let's choose when an item is created from the SharePoint connector. This basically means that every time from now on that a new inspection is added to your list, this flow will be triggered automatically. Next, we will prepare a couple of variables to store our images. We will create two. The first one is going to be an array for the inspection photos, which we know those can be multiple. At this point, it's also a good idea to rename this action. Of course, if you want, this is optional, but it makes the flow easier to read later. Then we're going to add a second variable here that's going to be a string, and it's going to store our single signature image. Now that we have these two, we are ready to retrieve the files from the SharePoint item. We are going to add the Get Attachments action from the SharePoint connector and use the ID from the trigger to retrieve all the files associated with the current item. This includes both the attachments and the image column that we have. As before, make sure to complete with your site and list name and make sure these are the same ones that we chose earlier. Now that we have this list, we are going to add a Get File Content action using the ID from the Get Attachments action, the one we just added before. This will automatically create a for each loop that goes over all the files obtained. At this point, we have all the files that we need, but we still need to classify them because, as I mentioned, we have the full list. In our case here, we decided that our signature file will always start with a prefix, that it's signature, so we will use that to identify it. But at this point, you can use any logic you want, whether that's a prefix, a suffix, a file extension, or any naming condition. So for our case, we will add the condition to check for the file name in here. This means that we're going to see which is the display name that the file has, and we have a case that is if the file name matches the signature rule, we're going to store it in the signature image variable that we created earlier. To pass the file content to the variable, we're going to use an expression like the following here. This, what it does is retrieve the base64 content, that is exactly what we need to pass to the document generation process later. You can simply copy and paste this expression in your flow and it should work as well. Then we're going to use the other scenario, meaning if the condition is not passed, and we're going to append it to the image array using the same expression as before. With that in place, all our image array to be used, and we can move on to work on our template. Now navigating to the Plumsail portal, click on Add Process and opt for one of the options here. You can start from a blank template, use a pre-made one, or upload your own. In our case, we have our file ready, so we're gonna just upload it and jump straight into the editor. Once that loads, as you can see, we have a bunch of tokens, and most of them simply reference fields from our SharePoint list. The image fields, however, as you can see here, use the picture syntax. This is one of our object operation that is available both for Docs and Excel templates, and it basically allows you to insert images dynamically, and it even supports size parameters so that the final report looks clean and professional. Keep in mind that it supports much more formatting options. Those are available, so make sure to check our documentation to further customize it. As we can see here, our template is ready. There is nothing else we need to change here for it to work. Optionally, you can, for example, go to the settings and change the output's file name so it's easy to identify it later. We're going to do so and save it. And here you can even decide how the generated document will be delivered. You can send it by email, store it in any storage service you want, or connect it to many other integrations that are available in Plumsail. In our example, we're gonna save the generated report to a SharePoint library. So we're gonna set all the fields necessary here and save. Make sure always to save your progress, and once that it's ready, all the customizations are in place, we can go back to our flow and connect it to our new template. Back in Power Automate, we're gonna add the start document generation process with JSON action. This is from the Plumsail connector, and if it's the first time you're using it, you will be prompted to create a new connection. Once that's ready, we're gonna select the process that we created from the dropdown, and we can start building our JSON payload. For the report information, the general one, we'll use several values directly from the SharePoint trigger, as we don't need to customize or process them. We can use them directly from our list here. And then for our images, both for the signature and the evidence photos, we will pass the variables that we populated earlier. All these file names that we're using here in the JSON correspond directly to the tokens that we included before in our template. So if you later decide to add, remove, or rename any of those, make sure to also update the payload here. Once we have that ready, we can save the flow, and that's it. The flow is complete. It's always recommended to run a quick test here just to make sure that everything is working as expected. So we're gonna quickly create a new inspection report in our list. And as the flow finishes, we can switch back here to our SharePoint document library as we configure in our process back in Plumsail, and see that the generating project is here. It's complete with all the inspections, images, and the inspector's signatures already in place. From here, you can customize your automation however you would like to, whether that's emailing the final report, sending it for approval, or even attaching it back to the SharePoint item. The decision is up to you. And this approach not only works for reports. You can create contracts, certificates, employee records, or any other business document. Just combine SharePoint, Power Automate, and Plumsail Documents to create Word, Excel, and PDF with rich content and visual help. Are you ready to try it yourself? Create an account in Plumsail and start your 30-day free trial to use all features and Power Automate actions. And if you need any help getting started, our team is ready to guide you through your first automation and answer any questions you might have. For now, that's all. See you in the next video.